Hey, all you Arizona lovers. This is the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose.
And I'm your producer, Brittany.
And here at Finding Arizona podcast, we collect the local stories of all entrepreneurs and from around the valley. So join us at findingarizonapodcast.com, where you can hear every episode and see it as well at
YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment below who you want to see next on our show. And when you're ready to start your podcast, you found the right spot. Found House, your next podcast production company.
Now, let's get back to the show. Score big with SeatGeek. Whether it's concerts, sports, or live events, SeatGeek has you covered. Use code FindingArizona to get a fantastic $20 discount on your SeatGeek tickets. Catch your favorite live events hassle-free with extra savings. Visit SeatGeek.com and make every experience unforgettable. Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose, and as always, we bring in very special guests every week, and today is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, with over 15 years of experience, I'm glad to introduce one of the recognized leaders in media relations, crisis communications, and strategic public relations. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Slayer PR, I would love to introduce Lindsay, who's coming to us as the founder and chief public relations strategist. So thank you, Lindsay, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Jose.
I really do honestly feel like this is going to be a cakewalk because you are someone, like we said off air, someone who understands what it's like to be in the media eye and being able to communicate and understand what it's like to have this. But it's a little bit different now that you particular are not behind the scenes and now in front of the camera. So I hope that you're not too worried because we do want to just share a little bit of your story.
Of course. No, I love that you called that out. And just to elaborate on that point, as we were discussing earlier, it's so different to train somebody to be in front of the camera. And then when it's you, sometimes everything that you are so trained to teach others kind of leaves you. But I also like it because I find it to be a lot more authentic and less staged, which is what I'm all about.
Yeah, I think you're going to do just fine, and I promise we'll be as easygoing as possible. I always like to say this is a softball one. This is like the most softball-y. It's like I'm here to help you and be a cheerleader for you guys, and so this is going to be one of those ones that you can knock right out of the park. And we'll start with the first question that we typically ask everyone: is give us a little bit of your origin story and how this all came to be. Because in particular, you're joining us as a friend from the north, and particularly in Canada. I would love to hear how you got down here in the Valley of the Sun and how all of this came to be in your life.
So yes, born and raised in Toronto, Canada. Canada will always be home to me. And I moved to Seattle back in 2016 out of a sheer love for grunge music.
Oh,
and
yes.
as we were laughing about prior, the wall in the back, all my grunge paraphernalia. I saw the movie Singles when I was 10 years old, and I was like, oh, what is this place? What's Seattle? Where on the map is that? And fell in love with the music and the vibe. And obviously, when I made that decision to leave Canada, I knew that the scene came and went, but, I was steadfast. I was like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to see everything there is to see. And I uncovered it. So, with that move to Seattle, I was always in public relations. And, I always tell the story of the fact that I had to restart my career to a degree because in the sense of, the way that PR is done in the US versus Canada, styles of writing, everything is very different. I didn't have my media contacts. I didn't have my support system. It was a big transition for sure, but that's how I wound up in Seattle. And then 3 years ago this month, actually, I relocated to Phoenix. I traded the rain for the sun, and I couldn't be happier.
That's so, and you know what? That is so beautiful that you brought up the movie in particular. It's just like, I always find it fascinating what brings, especially in a sense foreigners, but you're easily enough you can cross over. But it's like it's so interesting from people from other country what allows them or what interests them to come into the United States or what brings them to the United States. It's so interesting to me because in particular your case it's like this singular movie that you're just like, wow, huh, I want to check this place out. How can I do that? And then it kind of dominates your life and you are in the thick of it and just really have made yourself aware of that area and pushed yourself to there. And it's come true that you put yourself and lived there and just be able to thrive there. It's so beautiful.
And
In
while
per-
we're on the topic of
yeah.
battle add in, which is funny, Arizona was another little gem of mine when I lived in Canada because I loved the movie Thelma and Louise.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, wait, where is this movie filmed now? And I'd never even been to Arizona. So
Mhm.
in 2012, I flew to Phoenix. I rented your cliche red convertible Mustang. It was like April. So I'm coming from the freezing cold. People who live here are cold. And I'm like, this is amazing. And so I did, the whole circle drive, went through Monument Valley, which is another favorite of mine,
Yeah.
up through Navajo Nation, back down to Phoenix, and really fell in love with the landscape because I think there's nothing like it anywhere
Yeah.
else. And that's what makes Arizona to me very special. So
That's
another movie inspired move,
yeah.
impulsive maybe, but no, I promise it was thought out.
But I also think it's really ambitious and it shows also this kind of like love of entertainment, but it's also a part of your world as well. And the idea of this communication style through movies and entertainment that allowed you to kind of find yourself through those areas and through those sceneries and allow yourself to progress forward that way. So I think that's really great. And you brought up my particular favorite is that you brought up the Navajo Nation because I grew up living in the Hopi Reservation, which is surrounded by the Navajo Reservation. But it is really beautiful and scenic out there. And I always tell people if you are a fan of Thelma and Louise, old westerns, in particular, the point in Forrest Gump where he stops running is out there, and really beautiful scenic movies scenes are done in that area. So if you are a fan, it's a good place to go and it's a good place to check out. But I would love to kind of backtrack just a little bit. In particular, I'd love to understand like what was it like to say, okay, I'm leaving this one place called that I fell in love with, Seattle, and going to this new area. Like, what was that kind of what were you thinking? Why were you feeling that Arizona was calling to you?
And in full transparency, I back it up to when I moved to Seattle from Toronto.
Mhm.
And I thought it's a cakewalk. I've visited there. It's easy. I really like it. And then when you get there, it becomes a reality. And I think that many of us go through the same thing where, you see a city as a tourist and you
Yeah.
think to yourself when you're there, oh, I could live here, no problem at all. And then when you get there, it's like anywhere else. You go to work, you make dinner, you go to bed, and
Mm.
you restart it. And for me, because that was my first move and it was at such a large scale and being so rooted in Toronto, it hit me very hard. And,
Hmm.
I don't ever keep that a secret from anybody. Um, my whole world was just shaken, even
Hmm.
with the passion for grunge and all the exciting things that were there for me. It was very, very difficult. And it took me a solid year to acclimate, let
Yeah.
alone the rain. But, when it came down to moving to Arizona, I was very nervous because I went back to like those feelings of, wait, I know how tough it was to adjust to Seattle. Now I've been in Seattle for 6 years and I was scared,
Yeah.
in full
Yeah, of course.
transparency again. And what's interesting is I think you go through these periods and then you think it's going to be the same struggle or challenge or whatever experience it was the first time, but it wasn't. And moving here,
Hmm.
it was a totally different feeling for me. It was much easier
Yeah.
because I'd done it once. So it was overcoming that challenge and really
Mhm.
testing yourself and, what are your limits? And if you don't try it, you're not really going to know either.
Yeah.
So that's how I really fell in love with it, especially, I moved and I was like, God, that was a lot more seamless than when I moved to Seattle.
That's perfect. I love hearing that because it just shows that one, our city is really one of those places where it it's like open arms to those who are coming from different areas. And I always felt like this melting pot that we have here is very open to having more and very diverse groups and individuals to come in and share what they're about. And it's always felt that way to me. So I'm very glad that you had the opportunity to feel those feelings of like, I'm open and this is a place for you, so please come. And you felt that and you were okay. You were not what you were in the previous time that you moved. So I'm glad that you were able to transition pretty well and that the city accepted you in that manner. So that's a really cool story. I'd love to just get into a little bit about the idea of public relations and PR in general. I think it's something that a lot of people may misconstrued or misinterpret. So one question I'd love to ask is what brings you most joy or what brought you into this world because you were so fascinated by it?
Well, I love reading. I love stories. I love culture. I love learning about people. I like helping where and when I can, and putting a positive light on everybody's journey professionally and
Mhm.
personally.
Yeah.
So I always really gravitated towards public relations because it was essentially honing in on my natural skill set and abilities of being out there, being social, asking the right questions, and really learning. And with PR, I think I get to do both. So,
Awesome.
from a professional standpoint, but also you're just introduced to so many different kinds of people. Uh, you're out there, and
Yeah.
that's what I love about it. Listen, it definitely has its downsides too, as does any career.
Yeah.
But overall, I think for my personality, it was a good fit. I could never be an accountant ever. I could never, and that's not
Yeah.
a knock on
Yeah.
accountants. It's just I could never, ever, ever, be in tech, just personality type and what your passion is. And so I knew this is where I needed to be. It's always changing, specifically, our focus on food and beverage and hospitality.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I find it very a fun connection just because of what we do here and our podcast is there's a level of PR relationship that we try and have with all of our guests who come in and at least trying to expose them through our lens of how much we appreciate them and how much we are encouraged by their story. So I want people to realize like we are very much we're trying to be like public relations without actually having the moniker of it. We just want to be there and be cheerleaders because I started this in grad school and it was really an attempt to get my extroverted energy out. Like I've been doing this kind of storytelling, I believe, and my own lens of how I look at it. I think storytelling is important, and all of the things that we've done on this podcast has always been a conceptual idea of storytelling and how we represent ourselves and how we share who we are. So to me, that's what we do here on a grand scale. But I think if you look at some of the nuances, you can kind of see that public relations style that we have here as well. So I very much think of myself as just a podcaster right now, but I think as we move along and progress forward, there are definitely categories that we can kind of overlap and have some fun in, and maybe enjoy ourselves in that category of public relations without ever stepping on anyone's toes because we have a lot of friends who are public relations people and we find it very intriguing and fascinating. That's my cat. Sorry about that. She was sleeping and now she's like, no, I don't want to be here anymore. But anyways, we are going
I
to
feel
move
like I'm
forward.
a cat. I never really fully sleep. It's like, all right, I've got to work. And then maybe I'll,
Lounge.
siesta,
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes, back up and around. So I have a new
Exactly.
appreciation for cats.
she follows the sun path. That's what I like to say. She's very much the southern part of the home where she's just like anytime there's a sunbeam in the way, she's laying right in front of it. So that is Ray Ray. She is a treat to have around the house. I would love to get to know as you've progressed along with Slayer PR. I one awesome name. First off, I want to know where the name comes from because I think it's awesome. Because the first thing that comes to mind is the band, but I know that you probably have a different name or a different thing that came up from it. But I would love to hear where the name came from.
I feel like I always give the same response, but it's the truth. There's a couple of things that went into it. Number one, why did I pick it? Because it's bold, it's
Yes.
loud,
Yes.
it summarizes who I am as a person for our earlier conversation about grunge and music and movies. And so that was one thing. And it was like the other piece was nobody's going to forget it. And
Absolutely
nobody
not.
does. And
Absolutely
anytime
not.
I anytime I share, the name Slayer, people take a step back and they're actually really paying attention. They're like, wait, what? Did you say Slayer? Am I hearing you correctly? I'm like, yes. And
Awesome.
as we look ahead, um, I think there's a departure from the old world of public relations and business in general. And like I could never be an accountant. I could
Hmm.
never be Birch and Associates. It would just be, you know, a lie to myself and something I'm not passionate about. And I think at a very basic level, when you're starting a business, you need to identify with it. There can't be that disconnect.
Yeah.
And so the name is just representative of all the things that I love and the vision for the company. And we've been able to create a great brand as a result.
That's awesome because I think that again, you bring up this idea of connection to your brand, and I think that's one part. Speaking what you believe in will also transition into your clients and helping them understand what you're about. And so you live it, you breathe it, and they're kind of like, oh yeah, she's about it. So she's bold. She's going to help us be just as bold. And I think that's really great when it comes to just the first impressions. You are stepping right out into that light and you're saying, hey, we're Slayer. And it's amazing to me that people get that right off the bat. Like just really understand what you're about and really intrigued by your name can also be like that first level of like strong handshake. Like I am this person. So it's really cool. And you brought up not wanting to be Kirsch and Associates, which is funny because I my next question was going to be about your team and how much they relate to you on this level. So give us a little background on because you can't do something like this on your own. I know that you have a team, so give us a little bit of background on them and give them a little shout out.
Sure. And, just to backtrack a little bit there, initially I was on my own. And one of the biggest lessons I learned was you can't do it all.
Mhm.
And, when you're starting this passion project and you're starting a business, it's obviously critical that you know how every single piece of it is moving and how it works.
Yeah.
You quickly realize that you can't do it all. So
Yep.
now it becomes about expanding that team and investing in people. And throughout my career and now with Slayer, I've always been about people and taking care of them because I'm a firm believer that if you take care of your people, the business will flourish. It will take care of itself. People are coming to work. They feel, inspired. They feel empowered. And having worked, for many large companies before I went to Slayer, I've seen all the different
Mhm.
cultures and I knew exactly who I wanted and the experience that I want for them. But it's less about the experience I want for them and more
Mhm.
about the experience they want from me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to do it is to sit down, and have, say, a performance review, which I just went through last week,
Mhm.
but ask them for feedback and say, what would you like to do more of? And am I missing anything? Because I'm not perfect,
Mhm.
and I'm new to running a business, a year and a half in. But as for the team, so we've got a great team, New York, Toronto, here.
Mhm.
We're all satellite. Alexia is out in New York and she is very focused on fashion and the arts and culture.
Nice.
And, I love the fact that she is an old soul. She's just, she's a go getter, but she also knows all about, the 90s grunge scene and prior to. So we relate on that level. And she brings
Yes.
that energy and enthusiasm with her, which I love. And then, we have Robin, and Robin floats her time across all markets.
Mhm.
Robin, her entire career has been within hospitality, food and beverage.
Nice.
So again, it's finding people who share the same passion and bring the same skill set, and they're experts in their own areas.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, for Alexia, she has her own magazine now as well as her
Oh,
side project.
awesome. Yes.
Yeah. And so, anything that we can do as Slayer to help promote that as well, there's just a great synergy, and the energy that they bring is incredible. And I never have to worry. I never have to ask or push, because I think it's the environment that we create and taking care
Yeah.
of them. I'd rather them be fed first than myself, to be honest, as a new business owner, because I want them to grow, and I have those plans for them.
Yeah, I think it's really, it says a lot about, the owner to want to make the best out of their team. So allowing them to grow in the environment that they feel that they are thriving in, or that they are most inept to. It's just really, it's encouraging, because again, when you want to expand, you want to do it the right way, and to do so you have to take on the challenge of, okay, this individual is good at these types of things, but how can we expand them and grow them so that they benefit on all ends, so that we get the best out of them on ours.
Correct. Everyone's showing up happy, and, having that same goal is key, and reinforcing the great work that they're doing.
Mhm.
Because I would hate to lose good talent. And I
Yeah.
think there's many companies out there that lose good talent because they're missing the cultural piece of, is it a fit for both sides? Do we have shared goals? Am I being respectful of them? Are they being respectful of the company? And when you lose those people, you have to now go and hire and interview
Yeah.
and take time out of the day to day to do that. And it's a gamble
Mhm.
versus appreciating the support that you have and doing everything possible to keep them.
Yeah. And I think it's really, it's something that I've started to realize, that it's like, as a owner myself, and as someone who's like looking to start to expand and trying to push the envelope with ourselves, and we're trying to take on clients for production, and help them create podcasts and create things that they want to hear their voices on and share their stories through. So for me to hear from another owner that this is the particular way that she goes about it, and it's been helping them, it really goes to show that, it's possible to be hands on, but also let them flourish in different environments, especially that they're remote. It's so encouraging that you have a team that is wide apart, and expanding the US, but you yourself in particular are here in Arizona, and it's so encouraging to see our state to be a center point, or at least somewhere foundationally where it can grow from. So thank you for being here. uh that being said, I think the city itself is now, I like to think it's becoming a high asset value. As the city grows, we're taking on more economy, more people, more businesses, and that it says a lot about now the fifth growing largest city in the United States. So I want to hear from your perspective, hearing those types of things and being here already. How encouraged are you by seeing those numbers and seeing that possibility come into your circle, into your business?
I believe I moved here at the perfect time. To your
Beautiful.
point, Maricopa County is, the fastest growing in the country. I think a lot of people over the years underestimated Arizona,
Mhm.
uh, the business landscape here. I think often we are synonymous with, snowbirds and beautiful weather. And then come the summer, everybody get out of town. And I think that that is changing a lot. And we're seeing that just in sheer numbers and growth. And when we look at the amount of businesses that are starting to open up here, corporate offices coming in, it's really encouraging
Yeah.
as a business owner to know that I'm in the right place. And besides it being beautiful here, to see that growth.
Yeah.
And, I was reading an article recently that Denver is actually, I think, the fastest growing for startups. And
Yes.
I believe that there is a shift coming, and that will be Phoenix.
Mhm.
Um,
I
Personally,
mean,
I'll take Phoenix over Denver. No, not hating on anybody in Denver, but
I'm just
I
I'm in all honesty, I'm a big business journal reader, and just the amount of tech itself being invested in here. I have no doubt that is growing. And on top of that, another market is secretly or like sneakily is growing is entertainment, which is like movie productions and stuff like that being here now. And so I just am highly motivated and highly encouraged by just the amount that this city has grown and the amount of investment coming in through different organizations, different corporations. It's really interesting.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, look at how those corporations established themselves elsewhere, say
Mhm.
New York and Chicago and LA, and grew those cities. And that's exactly what we're experiencing here now, because I think the price of living, the cost of living rather, has gone up exponentially in these other markets. So businesses are expanding. The same
Mhm.
thing will ultimately happen here, but it's also, there's pros and cons to that, but that just comes with growth. And I do believe that Phoenix and Arizona, like I look at Flagstaff.
Mhm.
Flagstaff
Yeah.
is amazing. It's growing.
Yes.
It's incredible to see, and
Yeah.
that other people are recognizing what a great state we have here for business and personal.
Yeah. For you in particular, how exciting for your business, or at least what are some of the motivations behind, I guess strategic, pinpoints of like where you want to hit towards and what you're trying to accomplish?
Sure. So I think specifically, when it comes to Phoenix, with the growth comes new restaurants. And
Yeah.
restaurants is, my area of focus in
Yeah.
hospitality. We're in the epicenter of hospitality. And there's a lot of opportunity to support these businesses, whether it's a national
Mhm.
chain that's expanding, you know, other businesses that didn't have a presence here
Mhm.
that are recognizing it, to our earlier point. That opportunity exists here, and it's
Yeah.
untapped at
Yeah.
this time. And I wanted to be on the up of that, to say I got to get in there first
Mhm.
and make my mark,
Yeah.
rather than going into a market that is very oversaturated. Like you said, Phoenix is growing, not to beat that dead horse, but there's not a lot of, support PR wise. There are agencies, but it's not an agency heavy market, which was
Mm.
another opportunity. There are great agencies here, but
Yeah.
it's easier to play and network. And, I've gotten to know a lot of the other agency owners, and we refer work back and forth, and we're all
Mhm.
growing together.
That's what I like to hear because that's one of the things that kind of in my particular realm where I get to hear the group speak almost in that particular manner of like I get to hear the individuals tell about themselves, but what I hear a lot of the times too, and what I'm taking away is the fact that this city allows for collaborative environment and allows for more working together rather than competition. I think is what makes this city very much a friendly, fun place to live because some of the other cities, it's eat or be eaten sort of feel like, and that is something that I want to encourage people when they listen to this podcast, that the entrepreneurs of this city really want to do best for all and rather than best for themselves. And I hope to continue that forward because that's what I like about this city, or like the feeling of when I hear these episodes is I really am encouraged by how many times I get to hear I collaborate. I am not here to compete. I am here to help and want to work with others and be there to be collaborative. So it's really makes us different than some of the other larger cities.
And it's just very interesting as well because we have a presence in Toronto, obviously, where I'm from, and that culture does not exist there. It is such
Mhm.
a big city that, everybody will look at another business as the competitor.
Yeah.
And I don't get that here. And that's,
Yeah.
again, to that point, that's what I love. And Toronto, because of the size, there's hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of different agencies from, global to large to mid-sized to boutique that it can be hard to play there.
Yeah.
And just the environment in general is very different. It's East Coast. And here it's the perfect combination. And again, I never want to look at another agency as competition because
Mhm.
we do have a similar goal. And I did, a podcast and I wrote an article a few months ago about the
Mhm.
importance of advocating for ourselves in public relations
Yeah.
and working together. Because as a industry, as professionals, we don't want to give anybody a bad name.
Sure.
And the way to avoid that is by collaborating.
Yeah.
Maybe they get the client and I don't, but that's okay
Mhm.
because something else will come my way and vice versa. Or there's that referral piece. And you
Yeah.
don't want anybody to have a bad taste in their mouth about you as a professional or your company.
Yeah. I also feel like in this particular environment or the particular business that we work in, and when it comes to people and networking, it's like, you may not get them as a client, but let's say something didn't work out and they want to go back around and come back to you because you were second choice or third choice, and you, let's say, bite yourself and really put something negative out there towards that client or something towards the person that they're working with, and it just shows bad face on you because you have egg on your face for what you said and what all these things. So it's like I always feel that it's okay to let go because you never know what might come back around, because if you keep a positive and aura about yourself, you're gonna have something open for you. The door will open soon enough.
And referrals are truly, I was thinking about it this past month or so. Referrals are our favorite clients.
Mhm.
And we get those referrals because we have established so many great relationships with other
Yeah.
agencies and with clients. So, well, a lot of people want to focus on SEO and paid advertising.
Hmm.
It just didn't fit our business model here
Sure.
because we're not a large corporation and we really thrive on those referrals. And that's the other key piece, like I keep saying, is having those relationships where people trust you, they
Yeah.
trust your quality of work, your professionalism to generate that business versus in a larger market like Toronto, probably have to look at SEO and all of these other means to get the word out.
Yeah. Well, I really am just thankful to have someone of your stature, of like how much time you've already spent doing the work. And so I'm gonna ask you this question as more of like your total career and what you've learned, is just give us, I guess, an insight on something that people don't realize when it comes to your business. Give us something that you wish people knew more about.
So when I made the transition to starting the business
Yeah.
and reflecting back on my career, one thing that's not changed is the creativity. The skill sets, they've only gotten better
Mhm.
based on that experience. One challenge is running a business.
Yeah.
And it's different to go to work and, you're doing your job and you're learning, you're making mistakes, you're doing great, you're going through all the motions. At the end of the day, you go home. And the biggest change for me, you know, as I transitioned is, oh, wait, I have to run a business. I don't know how that works and what I'm going to do. So I've learned that as well.
Yeah.
And I think if I didn't have, my career experience, this venture would be impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
think
it's
that's
a new venture twofold where it's running a business and it's also pulling on my corporate experience and taking all those lessons and putting it together.
I'm on the same path as you, where it's like this has been always a side hustle passion project, and now we are in the midst of like taking on clients and doing more with what we have learned through our years of experience. And I don't know. I mean, I'm highly encouraged by it because I feel like I have a good footing on the market, good footing of understanding of knowledge, and I have a partner, my wife, who's also a former business owner herself that like can guide me through that process of like questions that it would, feel nervous about asking someone who've had more years of experience, like, wait, what about this? Or, and not feeling like I'm asking a stupid question, so to speak. And now, it has made me less uncomfortable to step out and become a business entrepreneur, a business leader, or a business person because I've had that safety net, so to speak. I just kind of now look at it as like an opportunity to get messy, make a mistake or two and get in there and not feel like I'm paralyzed by just 1,000 questions.
And mistakes are always going to happen.
Absolutely.
Gosh, I've had many mistakes in my professional life, and that's how we learn. And when I was at McDonald's, one of our senior leaders said something, and he would never remember this because it was just in passing. But it's one of those things when someone makes a comment, it sticks with you. And that was getting comfortable with being uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
and learning to ask those questions. And you realize that it's a fear that we have and that people don't look at it like it's a dumb question. We just assume
Yeah.
that they're going to think it's a dumb question. When the reality is, what I've learned is people are very happy to help. They're happy to mentor. And it's not a dumb question. And don't get me wrong. It's like we say, in full transparency, we get
Yeah.
scared. We don't want to look like we don't know what we're doing. And you know what? A lot of us don't know what we're doing half the time, but you figure it out and then you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's how you learn and that's how you grow. And it's being fearless.
Someone told me it's like you don't know what you don't know. So it's better to ask and get the knowledge so that you can feel like you have accomplished that fear. Like because it may feel like just something that's not important, but if you don't know and you don't get told, you're going to be blinded by this one little thing that could have been easily resolved by just asking a simple question. And so
Exactly.
getting past that fear is just one part of being a business owner. So, and thank you
And,
for that.
just working for a company as well. When
Yeah.
you're like, I want to ask my boss because it makes me look dumb. No, I am big proponent of asking questions, being inquisitive, learning, getting it right.
Yeah. So I typically like to kind of start off in like our conversations, like the beginning, your origins, and now we got into a little bit of the actual business and services and stuff like that. Now we kind of orient towards the future and just giving us some highlights of like things that you are either encouraged by, like you're excited to go and try and get, or if it's something that is new that you're just trying out. I would love to hear, especially in the world of PR. It's like, I think one of the things that might stand out as far as new thing is AI and technology that's bringing to light, this very a big brain of like things that it learns, but also providing answers and providing things like write ups and stuff like that. So give us a little bit of that for you and your business and how you kind of integrate that or how you take that on.
AI is a really interesting topic that
Yeah.
I have touched on lightly because, again, I don't pretend to be an expert in areas in which I'm not.
Yeah.
Um, I've been dabbling with AI as far as it relates to PR. I think PR will always require original thought.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
the minute that we move away from that and rely
Mhm.
on AI, like type, create a PR campaign for such and such, we're losing that. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of concerns around technology and AI for that reason. I think it takes away the personalization. And as a business, especially, it's all about our character, our brand personality. And that's what we're tasked to do for clients. And if we're consulting AI, what does that mean for PR?
Hmm.
What does it mean for any business? But I think the key is, again, learning how to effectively use technology to
Yes.
continue to grow your business. And as we look ahead, I am trying to figure out, how can I take advantage of certain programs or software or social media, what have you,
Hmm.
to continue to grow this business. And, we've got a lot of things we're excited about coming up in 2025 that I can't speak to at the moment.
Okay.
But we're hard at work. And right now we're looking at growing and bringing on that additional talent and
Awesome.
bringing up our team right now so that we create a system where my account executives now have a junior associate that I'm going to use air quotes, but reports into them. Because again, as we talked about the environment,
Mhm.
I don't ever want it to feel like, okay, you're answering to that person answers to me. No, it's still got to be collaborative.
Yeah.
But that's something I'm really, really excited about.
Great.
And just brought on some great new business. And it's watching
Perfect.
that growth
Yeah.
ultimately and navigating the waters and trying things out. That's really the common theme, I think, is trying things out, seeing what's available. And growing and investing. And
Awesome.
that's all I do is invest in Slayer because it's a choice I
Beautiful.
made to go out on my own. So it becomes, a do or die. It's not a half in, half out. Um, you have to give it your all.
Absolutely. I love to just, because I think this has kind of been a lot of fun. I want to integrate just something because that intrigues me that we're talking about technology. I would like, what is the most used app on your phone? I imagine that it's the Notes app, but there has to be like something else that you use particularly a lot. Is it social media? Is it something that like
Ooh,
is
there's two.
okay? Hit me with them.
And one is Spotify,
Okay.
back to music. I
Yes.
am on there all the time. I just discovered AI actually, DJX. Have you heard of
Oh, nice.
DJX?
Yes, yes.
No, it was hilarious because my best friend lives in Australia
Hmm.
and she's from Sydney and she was visiting here. She loves Arizona.
Awesome.
And we took a little road trip up to White Sands in New Mexico. And while we have similar taste in music, we don't. And as the music person here, I'm like, nobody can touch the radio in my car. It's just my music. And I get that's selfish and it's wrong. I'm trying to get better about it. So finally, I'm like, what is this DJX? Like, I'm so confused. And then I click it and it's like, how's it going, Lindsay? You see that you like these top hits from, this is your most played song in 2022. And it was amazing because this technology takes your taste into account
Hmm.
and plays songs that sound similar to your profile.
Yep.
So now I'm like this rabbit hole of I'm discovering all of this new music. The second app, which makes no sense, but maybe it does, Flight Radar. It just
Ooh.
takes my mind off things. I am fascinated by geography and where people are going, what a flight status is. So when I'm flying, you have the map.
Yeah.
I get made fun of all the time because I will fly to South Africa or to
Yeah.
Australia and I will literally only watch that map. I want to see where the plane is. So Flight Radar, you go on and it just shows you all the planes around the world and you zoom in and you're like, wait, what city is this? And where like places you've never even heard
That's
of.
so intriguing to me that you use that in particular a
Yeah.
lot. That's
It's a
so
good
cool.
break. It's a
No,
good
it's
break.
I love that you have these two things. One is very much a passion of yours, which is music, but the other one in particular is a way to de-stress and to deactivate from the world. And so that is definitely it's so intriguing to me how people use their phone because I think that's something that we've become synonymous with is being able to pick up this computer, this supercomputer, and connect and disconnect on so many levels. And so I'm very like it intrigues me because again, we were talking about technology, but I thought that in the sense like you would use Notes app to a lot of write up ideas throughout the day that you have or concepts that you're coming up with because that's the quickest way to get stuff down is past having it on a paper, just digitizing it in your mind on a Notes app. But yeah, that's so cool that those are the two that you picked.
And I'm pen and paper girl. Like I kick it old school here for like I mean PR wise we're modern, but
Yeah,
me as an individual, I will write notes because I don't
beautiful.
want my phone crashing or getting lost or you never know. And
So
I think we place too much trust in technology. And when you write things down, for me at least, I remember them more
yeah,
because I'm physically writing it out. So
yeah.
when I'm on my phone to that question, it's those other apps. And I think we spend way too much time on our phones. And if you're going to use it, I'm like, what is useful and inspiring to me? Okay, now
Yeah.
I'm learning about geography and now I'm listening to music, which taps into my creative side. So, I don't have to be on Instagram. I don't want to be on it.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting at a table with friends, they know this. Old school and me too. I say put the phones away. Like unless we're doctors saving lives or there is something pressing, time is a commodity. And I think that we need to get better about actually being off of our phones and more present.
That being said, are you a note take like do you have a notebook or like a day book that you kind of keep with you at all time?
Oh, I have like 100 laying over
Oh,
there.
awesome. Is there
So
one
many. And
no, I love this. I love this because I'm a very big like I love learning about how to keep um not like keep yourself scheduled and keep yourself kind of on task and to-do lists and things like that. I've tried everything: sticky notes, notebooks, using my phone, kind of like I want to test everything because I don't know, for me I just am, it's very hard for me to kind of keep these tasks all together because it's like I want it to be one part my professional life, also my things to do around the house, like things I have to get done, overall goals. Like I want it to be a one all in one sort of situation. So I love hearing people's different strategies of how they do that. So it's like if you could give me some insights on how you keep yourself like scheduled in that note, it's like one notebook to one thing, or how do you organize it?
you know what? It's chaos. I'm not going to lie,
Okay.
but there is a method to it. When it's your
Okay.
own chaos, you know exactly where things are and how to
Okay.
find them. So for me, like, yes, I've got several notebooks. One page could be like personal tasks I need to get done during the day. And the next page will be like, okay, this report is due. But the way that I write it out is just crossing it off that list. And if I have everything on one,
Yeah.
it's easier. So
Okay.
I stopped actually separating, the professional tasks from personal. I look at it as just one big list. And when I
Got it.
laugh and I say I have multiple notebooks, it's because I fill them up so much because I write so
Perfect.
much.
Yeah.
And I know
I
that's
love
probably
it.
crazy to a lot of people that I would put all of those things together,
It's okay.
but it's just it's like the only way I know how, if that makes any sense. It's just easy. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's so much easier for me to write it down, remember it, than type it on a calendar
I
or
love
wait
it.
for a notification. Because if I have to be notified by what I need to do, then I've already forgotten it's coming up, and that's a problem.
Hmm.
If it's already in front of me and I'm not needing a reminder, that makes life a lot easier.
I love that. Thank you. I mean, it really does help me know that there are others like me who like, I just need it all in front of me. Like my mind is going to forget. I know that if I walk away and I don't write it down, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just, I just need it and it's there, and having it written. Cause what is the moleskins? Like I run through moleskins of all shapes and sizes, those little notebooks on all
They're not
shapes.
cheap. At
They're
least you're
not
doing
there.
fancy.
Yeah, I also, I
I
mean,
still have my
like,
McFlurry notebook from McDonald's. Like it has literal McFlurries on the front.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I will anytime I've given a notebook or like I keep it. Like honestly, I have different Like this one, I think is just I notes on ideas for the podcast and stuff like that. So I just again am a notebook fiend. You give me a notebook, I'm keeping it, I'm using it, I'm doing something with it. So
If I was sitting at my desk, I would show you. If I were to grab what's in front of me, it would be a Kurt Cobain coffee table book, uh, guitar picks, Temple of the Dog ticket, more fun stuff than my notebooks.
you
But I'm right with you.
you are such a music person. Like I wish this was a music podcast, then we'd talk a little bit more about music. But I'm gonna ask you off air about like some concerts you've been to. But as we finish up our conversation, we're kind of this cheerleading, encouraging highlights of a podcast. And what I'd like to end on is just give us one thing our listeners can help you for the future for Slayer so that we can hopefully have either a listener or a group of listeners be able to make your goal come true.
I think the biggest form of support is just staying in contact and reaching out. I am always happy to meet new people, whether that's me initiating a conversation or somebody reaching out to me. Ask those questions, like we said,
Yeah.
and form that community. And I think that that's the best way to move forward collectively as well
Awesome.
as a business.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. I have no doubt that Slayer and yourself are going to have a good future here in Phoenix and also throughout the U.S. I'm very encouraged by what you've brought to the table today. And before we go, we usually leave the end part of our conversation for you to promote right away on what you guys have available. Website, let us know where they can find you on social media. So the floor is yours, Lindsay. Take it away.
Triple W, as they say, www.slayerpr.com. And on Instagram, we are Slayer __ PR. We're on LinkedIn, the general channels. But like I said, most importantly, I love when people reach out directly. And if they want to learn more, come to the source.
Yes, and I have no doubt that they're going to enjoy you and your team and have some great conversations with you guys. But before we go, we have a little outro for ourselves. You can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. Everything under social media wise for us is Finding Arizona Podcast. And last but not least, we end every conversation with a kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. We will see you next time. Bye, y'all.